The concept of false indifference is a powerful tool in any negotiation or interaction. It is the idea that if you want something from someone, you should make it seem like you don't care about it. By pretending to be indifferent, you give the other person the impression that they have more control in the situation, and they are more likely to comply with your request. One important rule to keep in mind when using this technique is to phrase your requests and questions in a way that makes it seem like you can easily accept rejection. For example, instead of saying "I need this" or "this is very important to me," you can say "I was wondering if it's possible to," or "I was thinking that it would be nice if." Ending your sentence with phrases such as "but it's not necessary" or "but I can also manage without it" can also give the impression that you are not overly invested in the outcome. Another important aspect of using false indifference is to avoid showing too much enthusiasm or desire for what you want. If you reveal that you are willing to do anything or pay any price to get it, the other person will sense your desperation and may try to take advantage of it. For example, imagine you are trying to negotiate a raise with your boss. Instead of going in with a list of reasons why you deserve a raise and how much you need it, you can instead approach the conversation with an air of indifference. You can say something like "I was just wondering if it's possible to discuss my salary, but it's not something I'm overly concerned about. I'm happy to stay with the company even if the salary doesn't change." This approach makes it seem like you are not overly invested in the outcome, and that you are not threatened by the possibility of rejection, and it may make your boss more likely to comply with your request. It's important to note that false indifference is not about being dishonest or deceiving the other person. It's about creating an illusion of control and making them feel more comfortable with the situation. By using this technique, you can increase your chances of getting what you want, without the other person feeling pressured or manipulated. However, it is important to be aware that using this technique too often or in the wrong context can backfire. It's essential to use this technique wisely. Be aware of the situation and the person you are dealing with. Keep in mind that trust and transparency are key elements in any relationship. Using false indifference too much can damage that trust. From a scientific perspective, there is evidence that supports the effectiveness of false indifference in negotiation. Studies have shown that when people feel like they have more control over a situation, they are more likely to comply with requests. This is known as the illusion of control effect, and it is based on the idea that people feel more comfortable making decisions when they feel like they have a choice. By creating the illusion of choice, false indifference can make the other person feel more comfortable with the situation and more likely to comply with your request. Additionally, research has shown that people who have a high level of self-confidence and self-esteem are more likely to use false indifference effectively. People who are confident in themselves and their abilities are less likely to feel threatened by rejection and more likely to be able to maintain the illusion of control. In conclusion, false indifference is a powerful tool that can be used in any negotiation or interaction. By pretending to be indifferent, you can give the other person the impression that they have more control in the situation and make them more likely to comply with your request. This technique is backed by scientific evidence and has been shown to be effective in a variety of settings. However, it's important to use this technique wisely. Be aware of the context and the person you are dealing with, and not to overuse it. Trust and transparency are key elements in any relationship, and using false indifference too much can damage that trust. It's also important to remember that false indifference is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's essential to adapt your approach to each situation, and be aware of the other person's perspective and feelings. If you use false indifference in a situation where the other person is already feeling vulnerable or sensitive, it may come across as insincere and may harm your relationship with them. In addition, it's important to be aware of nonverbal cues when using false indifference, as they can reveal your true feelings. For example, if you are trying to pretend that you don't care about something, but your body language is tense or anxious, it will be harder to maintain the illusion of indifference. In summary, False indifference is a powerful tool that can be used in any negotiation or interaction. It is a subtle and effective way to give the impression that you are not overly invested in the outcome, while still getting what you want. However, it's important to use this technique wisely. Be aware of the context and the person you are dealing with, and not to overuse it. Remember that trust and transparency are key elements in any relationship, and using false indifference too much can damage that trust.